Now I'm on. Okay. It's now 9:02, and we will call the meeting to order. Raymond, would you please do roll call?
Yes, sir. Mr. Reyes? Here. Mr. Wardy? Here. Mr. Smith?
Here.
Ms. Byrd?
Here.
Ms. Stevens? Ms. Wilson? I believe was going to join us online. Ms. Wilson?
Don't leave me, Joyce.
All right, we'll keep an eye out for her. And Ms. Enriquez will be out today.
Okay.
We do have a quorum.
Okay, do we have any public comments this morning?
None received.
Okay. You don't have to leave now, we're just starting. Okay, so item number 2, adoption of minutes from the board meeting of December 14th, 2022. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second, any comments, discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, item number 3, presentation, discussion, and action on fiscal year 2022 audited financial report. And we got this amazing team here along with that team. So go at it, Robert.
Good morning, Robert Studer, Director of Finance for the record. With us today is Craig Gibson, Vanessa Alarcon, and Sonia Sanchez from Gibson, Ruddock, Patterson, our audit firm. We've had them for several years. We re-procured them a couple years back. I think we had a pretty successful audit this year, but I'll turn it over to Mr. Gibson.
Good morning. Yes, I agree. We had a smooth audit. There was not a lot of difference from this year to the prior year. No unusual transactions. But in looking at the statement there, the RMA is a very different type of entity than most of your other government entities. And so there's one thing that I just want to point out to make sure all of the board members completely understand the accounting peculiarity of this entity. The way the way this the way this entity operates is we borrow the money, bonds or SIBs, whatever avenue we take, and then we spend the money to construct the infrastructure. Then that asset that the funds were spent on is transferred over to the appropriate government entity, whether it's TxDOT, the city, the county, whoever. But the debt stays on our books. Okay, so before any transfer, we have an asset and we have debt, liability. They balance out pretty much. But once the construction is completed, the asset is moved over to the other government. We still have the debt, which means our equity will be negative. And that's why if you look on page 14 of the balance sheet, you'll see a significant negative equity. So if you were a businessman and you looked at that, you would be scared to death. Well, this is the way this entity is designed. Now, the servicing of that debt is paid to us by the various entities. The city funds the annual debt service, and the county, we have the registration. What's the vehicle registration fee? And so there is information in the footnotes that show where this revenue is coming from every year. But I wouldn't want you to look at this and see that negative equity and be alarmed. That is just the nature of this entity. So with that thrown out there, I would like to say the audit went very well. We are issuing an unmodified opinion or clean opinion. We did have federal and state revenue, which requires single audits, and there are no findings related to those grant monies. Also, we issue a separate letter, which we refer to as the management letter. There's some required communications in there that from the auditor directly to the board. And if we had any significant management points for improvement, we would put them in there. But over the years, we have made a number of comments, and your staff have taken every comment that we've made to heart and immediately took action. We did have just a few extremely immaterial items that we just made vocal or verbal comments to. I guess the most significant was in your grant management manual, we suggested a couple of little tweaks just to get it perfectly in sync with the current regulations. Other than that, it was really a very good audit this year. Any questions?
Thank you very much. Any questions, anybody?
I'd like to make a comment. As chair of the financial committee, I can tell you that yesterday we had a really good meeting. Sissy and Laura and I had a really good meeting with management staff and our auditors. And in my many-year history, I won't tell you how many, in business and organizations, it's very rare to see that type of audit come with no exceptions or recommendations. So I want to commend our staff. They do a fantastic job, and comments from our auditors also that they're very easy to work with. But it was a pleasure to go through it yesterday. It's very concise and everything is in good shape. So on that, if there's not any other comments, I would recommend approval of the, I think that's the right move, Raymond, to approval of the audit report.
I second it.
Yes, sir.
Okay, just one comment from me, and that is, and Mr. Wardy and I have had this conversation before, and that is, we are very blessed in this organization to have the staff that we do and the supporting group that we have, and so all of us, I'm sure, feel very, very comfortable with that entire environment. And so thank you, congratulations to you, and we would expect nothing less. So thank you. So all that being said, all those in favor of accepting the financial report as presented, say aye.
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 Any opposed? I heard an aye coming from the sky.
Hi, can you hear me? It took me a while to get on. For some reason, my iPad wouldn't open Teams, so I had to get my other computer out. I apologize.
Good morning, Joyce.
Good morning.
Well-
Thank you for chairing.
Oh, you're welcome. You just chime in anytime you want. So, all right. So, that takes care of item number 3. Item number 4, discussion and action on a board resolution authorizing the advertisement of a construction letting for the El Paso County Passenger Shelters and Sidewalks Program.
Good morning, everyone. Raymond Tejas, Executive Director of the Camino Real Regional Mobility Authority. As they head out, thank you all.
Yeah,
Gibson
thank
Rudder.
you. Thank
Appreciate
you
it.
very, very much.
Appreciate all your work
Thank
this
you
year.
for-
Thank you. As read into the record, we're talking about the County Passenger Shelters and Sidewalks Program. We do have a PowerPoint for you all, so I'll ask IT to bring that up, and I'll walk you through it. In Looking for the PowerPoint as opposed to, there we go, that's the one. Thank you. One second. Thank you. Okay, so what we're going to talk about today then is actually, nope, sorry, that's the wrong one.
Yeah, you got,
Oh, no, I'm sorry, we're good. We're good. That's an error on my side. Apologies for that. So what we're talking about today is the countywide passenger shelters project. As a reminder, we have developed a program with El Paso County that is focused on two main components. And the first part is providing passenger shelters and stops for the El Paso County Rural Transit Agency that they're running. And the other component of that is sidewalks to and from transit stations, but also sidewalks filling gaps throughout the rest of the county. So we've packaged that together as a program known as the Sidewalks and Shelters Program for the El Paso County. And this is part of that larger program. So when you break out the shelters component of the Sidewalks and Shelters Program, then we have two main projects within the shelters program. And the first one was a focus on the design and implementation of 9 full shelters, and we saw a couple months back the results of some of those shelters that are being put into place now, right? So we designed 9, and we are currently, I believe we've installed 4 so far, and we've got another 5 being placed right now. So that's known as the kind of Theo Shelter Program. The other shelter program is this one, and that's the Countywide Passenger Shelters Project. So this one is, of course, jointly being pursued with El Paso County. The project budget will come from El Paso County utilizing grant funds from the FTA through TxDOT. And of course, we'll enter into agreements with the county once we get to the construction dollar side. We will handle the oversight. So this is obviously hard to see, but this is provided in your backup and can be found online if you'd like to zoom into it. What you're seeing there are all of the routes of El Paso County Transit. So you can zoom in and see exactly the routes that we're trying to address. And I would mention too, as a reminder, El Paso County Transit originally and for many years has been a system where you basically hail rides. So there were no fixed stops. You just lift your hand as a transit vehicle is rolling by, and they'll pull over for you. They are now moving into the fixed stop approach. And that comes from a study done by Texas Transportation Institute that developed all of the proposed stops for El Paso County Transit. And that's really what we're using as the guidebook in terms of where we're placing these stations. So again, those are the routes. This is another slide that you can spend some time with zooming in, and this will show you all of the different stops that TTI has proposed on each of the different routes. So under this particular project, there are 3 types of stops that are being proposed. That first category is the full-blown bus stop with a shelter, with a bench, with bike rack, trash receptacle, everything that you would see in the Cadillac version of a bus stop. So we've designed 25 of those under Category 1 through this particular program. So it's everything you see there, the concrete platform, sidewalk, passenger shelter, solar-powered lighting, much like the 9 that that are already underway. We've also designed into this project a number of Category 2 stops, and those are just the concrete platform, the sidewalks to and from, and the bench and a bus stop. So it excludes the larger shelter. And then there's a Category 3, which is basically just the bus stop, the sign itself, plus sidewalks when applicable. So of those 3 categories, then you see we're implementing 25 of the Category 1, 48 from Category 2, and then 39 from Category 3.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
On those 3 categories, what is the deciding factors as far as which category you're going to put where?
So that's being driven by the TTI
And the only reason
study.
why I ask that
Yes,
is
ma'am.
because I believe that a bench and a cover should be everywhere because we live in Texas and it's hot. But I was just curious about that.
Yes, ma'am. I believe it's a funding issue. So the stops that have been identified as likely to be most used are Category 1. That's my understanding from the TTI study. And I'll follow up on that to confirm that that's the reasoning for it. But ultimately, the categories come from the TTI study. So that's where
Okay.
that's coming from.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
I have a question too.
Yes, ma'am.
Would it make sense, I don't know if the design's already been done, but the ones that don't have the shelter, and just the bench to design it so that it would be easy to add?
Can I ask that? We've got our general engineering
If more funding
consultant.
became available?
Yes, ma'am.
Good morning, Edward Fino with Acton GC. Based on that question, oh, I'm sorry. Good morning, Edgar Fino with the Atkins GC. On that question, the category 2, which is the concrete pad and the bench, the pad is designed so when we do get additional funding, we could install a shelter on it. So category 2, we're shelter ready, but we can't afford to shelter at this point. So if the county comes up with additional funds, either while we're under construction where we can do a change order on whoever our contractor is, or we go out with an additional project to bring and install these shelters.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question. Is there a system where the people that would use the ridership on this, where they could ask for consideration for one of the places where they get on? And I'm asking because with the infrastructure money that is becoming available, if there isn't a system, we ought to look into maybe encouraging people to ask for areas, especially as we were discussing the heat factor and the sun and all of that.
Right. So I would say that the TTI study took into account a lot of public input. So they had a number of public meetings out where the services are being provided, so they received a lot of input to drive that. But I can tell you the county also always receives comments from the public on that sort of thing. So I think these would be fluid to a certain extent. If the county, once in operation, sees an area that needs it, I think it will be flexible. As to your point on the grant funds being available, we are looking at that as well to try to fund the remaining bus stops that were not funded through either the first 9 or these 3 categories that we're pursuing under this particular project. So there are still, I want to say, over 100 or maybe around 130 stops that will not be funded through this particular program or the prior. So we still have a ways to go. Okay, so let's get back to the PowerPoint. So the role of the county in this partnership is to provide the construction funding for the project and provide owner decisions and guidance as we go through it. The RMA will prepare and let the project for construction. So we've already completed the design. We're using those design plans to put it out on the street and to hire a construction contractor to implement. And we'll provide construction management services as well. This is our proposed timeline. We're looking to advertise in February and then open bids in March with hopefully an award in April. And then we're looking to start as soon as June. And it's the usual activities you see there, Monday through Friday work. We anticipate about 10 months to complete, and we'll credit weather days. So we're looking at a spring 2024 completion of all of the 3 categories that we outlined before. So as I mentioned then, ultimately what we're doing here the staff is seeking authorization from the board to put out a procurement for a construction contractor. So I would recommend approval subject to your questions.
Question, Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I have a question that's semi-related to this issue. If a contractor has defaulted on previous contract on these types of projects, are they excluded from being able to bid on any future business of this type?
Yeah, it is our intent that any default would prohibit future work from that contractor. So
For any RMA projects? Or
Any,
is it-
yes, sir. If a construction contractor defaults, they would not be able to provide any construction activity, so it wouldn't be tied to the type, it would be any.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other comments or questions? Entertain a motion to approve.
So moved?
Seconded?
I got a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item number 5, discussion and action on a board resolution authorizing the execution of an amendment to work authorization number 1 with Hewitt Zollers for Fabens Airport Improvement Project, hangars. Raymond?
Okay, so this one is a fifth amendment to this work authorization with Hewitt Zollers. And this particular project, as you may recall, is providing support to El Paso County as they improve the Fabens County Airport in support of the UTEP partnership that they've developed. The prior amendments have included the original agreement was to bring the design for a box hangar, and then we've added since then 4 additional box hangars, a survey, solar panels and septic system, and 5 T-hangars, as you may recall, pretty recently. This fifth amendment then asks for a design amendment to widen the door of one of the hangars because one of the tenants that UTEP is bringing in has an electric, I believe it's an electric airplane with a longer wingspan than normal. So we're basically redesigning one of the hangars to have wider doors to account for that particular aircraft. So this amendment is in the amount of just shy of $15,000 and has been recommended by El Paso County, and I would recommend approval subject to your questions.
Okay, any questions? Okay, entertain a motion to approve.
I second it.
Okay, motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Okay, item number 6, discussion and action on a board resolution authorizing submission of an annual compliance report to TxDOT. Raymond?
This item is a regular occurrence. We see this each January. This is a requirement by the rules governing RMAs. We are required to confirm compliance with all of the different the reporting requirements. So you'll recognize the form. It is included as part of your backup, so I would recommend approval of this item.
Okay, any questions or on this action? I'll entertain a motion to approve.
I make that motion.
Second?
I'll second.
Okay, and all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Item number 7, discussion and action on the following first quarter fiscal year 2023 reports. Interim financial statement, A. B, investment report, C, El Paso Bike Share Sun Cycle Program, and D, general engineering consultant team use of local resources.
Good morning, Robert Studer. These 4 reports were shown to the Finance Committee during yesterday's meeting. I think we had a fairly healthy discussion on each of them and went through and answered questions, and has been past practice just asking the full board for approval, but the reports have been reviewed in depth by the Finance Committee.
Okay, any comments from Finance Committee?
None, they found everything to be in order, as
Okay.
usual.
Any other questions? I'll entertain our motion to approve.
So moved?
I second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, item number 8, staff reports on A, status of Pelicano Drive widening project, and B, status of the Mission Ridge Boulevard Phase 2 drainage and street improvement project.
This item is now a regular occurrence on our agenda, just in case something happens, right? As you know, we've been having some issues on these projects. I'll just provide a very brief update. As you know, we provided the notice of default on the Pelicano Drive project, so that was issued. We've had one meeting so far with the surety company to begin that process, so that is underway now. Outside of that, that's really all I have. So just wanted to explain why this item is on here. So I'll keep that on here just in case anything happens between now and the next meetings as well. But happy to answer any questions.
I have one question. Is there any timeline associated with surety's requirement to respond to us, or
Yeah.
what's the timeline associated with that?
Unfortunately not. I asked that question directly, and in essence, the answer was, well, we're in the investigation phase, so we need to look at all the documentation. We've Our general engineering consultant team has shared quite a lot of information with them already. We anticipate a site visit in the coming weeks. Let me step back. The surety engages a consultant, a construction consultant, so we've been working with them to provide them the requested information. So we anticipate a site visit with them before too long as we move through this process. But unfortunately, no timeline was shared.
So we have no enforcement hammer of any kind? How does that?
Well, in terms of enforcement, they have a responsibility to us, but in terms of a timeline, they also have a responsibility to go and do their investigation, due diligence, to make sure that everything that we are claiming is appropriate. So we're in that phase right now.
Okay, and if that process is unsatisfactory to us, what's our recourse?
Well, then we would retire into executive session. We'd have our attorneys advise on that. But we're far from that. I should mention, our initial conversation with the surety company has been very productive, very collegial, and it's been good so far.
Okay. Any other questions?
No, other than I think we just need to continue to press them to move as quickly as possible in their due diligence so that project doesn't sit dormant for an extended period of time. And then at some point, we need to look at what our options are for a separate procurement. And that, I assume, we'll have to discuss in executive session.
Yes, ma'am. So I would mention, in terms of enforcement, the liquidated damages do continue to accrue, so there is an inherent incentive for them
Okay.
to move this
Well, that's
process.
helpful.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
All
So
right.
is there no action on this?
No, ma'am. This is
Okay.
information.
Okay, the item number 9, I would like to turn that's presentation to the CRRMA board member Joe D. Wardy in recognition and appreciation of his service to this CRRMA board of directors. I would like to yield to Joyce for comments, and my understanding is the chain hasn't been unlocked from the big heavy ball around his foot associated with this, and we're still waiting for a final answer from the city attorney's office. Is that correct, Raymond?
Yes, sir. So the question is, there are term limits identified within the resolution that creates the RMA and governs the RMA. And Mr. Wardy is right up against that 8-year term limit. But we don't know whether holdover trumps that, so that's the question that's in with city attorneys right now.
Okay. On that note, Joyce, your action, please.
Thank you. And Mr. Wardy, I apologize that I'm not there in person to acknowledge and thank you for your longstanding service to this community and specifically to the RMA. And so hopefully you'll be able to be held over so that I can be there in person for the final hurrah. But I do want to take this opportunity to acknowledge that Mr. Wardy has served on the RMA since 2014 when he was originally appointed, and he served the maximum 8 years that's allowed under the terms. He's been very dedicated to the RMA during his tenure. He seldom has missed meetings. He's sat in leadership roles both as vice chair and more recently as treasurer, and I think is responsible for the financial performance of the organization in terms of his leadership as treasurer and oversight of the finance committee, and also his knowledge of logistics and transportation, which has been really invaluable to the organization. I've had the privilege of working with Joe in a couple of different capacities, and I've considered it a privilege and an honor to work with him on the RMA. So thank you, Mr. Wardy, for your service. You will be missed, but I know you'll be doing other important things in the community, because I don't see you retiring to the sunset and not being active and engaged. You have too much talent and too much energy to do that.
Well,
And
Madam
then
Chair,
I'll open it up to anyone else who would like to give their remarks and thank yous.
Yeah, before we let Joe talk here, I'd like to add in here that I would not be on this board if it wasn't for Joe Ward. So Joe kind of mentored me into this position, knew of my interest in what was going on, and he's been a good friend for a long time, and because of him, I am been a member of this board. And on that note, I will tell you that I've served on a lot of different activities, on a lot of different boards, on a lot of different organizations, and I'm at the point in my life, if I don't like it, I don't do it. And I love this board and everything associated with it. So, Joe, thank you for the opportunity that you helped me achieve by being here, and thanks for being my RMA mentor. So,
I would like to say something. I just want to say thank you for being on the finance committee with me. I have learned so much from you, and now I don't know who's going to be sitting on that committee if I stay on that committee in your seat. So I just want to say thank you for your guidance and your leadership that you portray in that meeting. Thank you.
I would also like to thank Joe. When I was appointed, he was the first one to reach out and wanted to know are you familiar with? I said, I know nothing, and I would like to get somebody that would agree to do the mentoring. And he says, well, I don't do that. Now I find out that he does it for you,
Yeah.
but not for me.
you got too much
This
hair.
is- and all I did was ask him, what does the D stand for in your name? He says, it's not important. So, but thank you, Joe. You're a class guy, and appreciate your help and your willingness to be there if we need you.
Thank you, Silva.
I would like to thank Mr. Wardy in advance for some future mentoring. So I'm looking forward to still having conversations and guidance, so.
Thank you very much. Well,
Mr. Wardy, from the staff side, if we could jump in before you do.
yeah, go ahead.
I'll tell you, the level of engagement and interest that you've shown in this agency and what we are doing, and even more importantly, what we can do, has been really supportive. You've been one of the most supportive board members we've had. So from a staff side, I wanted to thank you for that. So thank you. You'll be missed.
Thank you, Raymond. I guess I'll open up. When I first joined the board, I wanted, like Jim says, if you're going to do something, you got to dive in. And looking at the charter for the RMA, the way it's designed is for the board members to actively engage in guiding the organization. I was accused at one point of attempting to micromanage, and nothing could ever be further from the truth. Our goal is to help develop the organization and the talent that runs it. And I can tell you that it's a real honor. I've always enjoyed the mentoring part of corporate structure and organizational structure. And Raymond, to see you and your growth over the 8 years, and then to bring on a Robert, and then the cohesion of that team, and then the members that have served over the years. This is a great, high-functioning organization. I hope it continues in that path. There's a lot of work to be done in the community. It's been a great experience. Like Jim said, I've served on a lot of boards. This one's been right up in the top 2 as far as fun and engagement. And I stand forward, even though not as an official member, on any capacity that I could help ever, this group or any members of this group going forward. But thank you to everyone involved, and to our vendors who've always been open to questions, and even sometimes some questions that made them uncomfortable, but everything's always been open and honest around here, and I really cherish that. So thank you to everyone. Madam Chair, thank you for your leadership, and I have enjoyed working with you through your time as chair.
I have a suggestion. You
Joe.
can come every single month when we meet. You can come and sit out there, and when you want to say something, you can go to the mic. It's okay.
I just might do that.
Until we put you out.
Okay, we do have a presentation. Joyce, if I may, present this plaque on your behalf to Joe.
Thank you, please do.
You can ride the streetcar anywhere in town.
Just show my plaque, huh?
Just show your plaque.
We gotta do a photo op here.
Oh, wait a minute. Smile, Joyce.
I'm smiling.
All right, with that being done, the chain is still locked around his ankles, so we'll see what the future brings from the attorneys. And any final comments, Joyce, before we, is there any need to go into executive session, Raymond? Okay.
No, sir.
Any final comments, Joyce, before we adjourn?
No, but other than to thank you for agreeing to manage the meeting for me on my behalf while I'm remote. I do appreciate it. I don't feel it's appropriate to try to chair a meeting from a phone. So you've done a great job as always.
I'm a good proxy. So, okay, with nothing further, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved?
I second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Bye.
Thank you very much. Be safe, Joyce. Take care.
You too. Thank you.
9:38.